Well, ladies and gents, I'm a little bit late to the stream, but without any further ado,
Win. Of course, a woman can win. But the real question is, how do we beat Trump? The real question is,
hold up.
how do we beat Trump? By a campaign of energy and excitement, and a campaign that has by far the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And I believe that our campaign.
Hold on, I have to fix this. Let's see. Shit. Oh god. Okay. God, I'm not doing well with this right now. Yeah, I'm burning time. Welcome to the stream. That's a commercial break anyhow. So, I'm just gonna full screen it. Alright. I've got chat going on my phone. We're good to go. Now, it might be a little loud when it comes back on, so let me know if it is. You might hear my roommates bantering downstairs. But in the meantime, this is the stream. Just gonna be me reacting to the debate. I'm coming in kind of late. It's damn near 10 by now, which I'm about an hour late. Oh well. Ooh, welcome to the stream. I see one person watching. Now, I'm rooting for my boy Bernie. That's the man. That's just my opinion. I really hope that Biden, just stumbles and falls into his own shit during this. He does not need to be running right now. Honestly, he's probably the worst candidate out there. Even worse than Bloomberg, even worse than Steyer. And, Bloomberg, he's... God, what a fucking asshole, dude. Mayor of New York, can't get shit done, never got shit done, and he's rich. That's his only, redeeming quality. Ridiculous. Oh, I got 8 viewers. Jesus, that's more than I ever get. Welcome to the stream. Hello. Right now there's a commercial break going on. But, once this is over, we'll get right down to the meat of things. So, say hi in chat. Make yourself known. I don't know if chat's updating, but, should be. Been having some technical difficulties here. No, no, it's good. It's good. All right. Welcome to the stream. I'm your boy, Mr. Meatball, also known as Lord Meatball. Expert political commentator. Yeah. Oh, we're back. I think. No, we're not. God damn, how many ads does CNN have to run? Jeez. Should I play like a mini game or something while this is like waiting commercial break? Like a Newgrounds game or something? Because I think that would kind of pad out the time. Because this is kind of boring, not gonna lie. Yeah, screw it. I'm gonna do a Newgrounds game. We'll just come back when we hear sound. Let's do like some shitty like president. Hentai President by the Shadling? I don't think that's stream friendly. Oh, let's type Obama. That's some good election material. Let's see. Danny McNulty says, "I'm naked. I'm naked. I'm so naked. Congratulations. Get you. We're back.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic Presidential Debate live from Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa.
Let's turn to healthcare.
Oh boy. Let's.
Donald Trump is trying to repeal Obamacare, including the protections for pre-existing conditions. We all know that each of you vigorously opposes that. Still, there are some questions about what each of you would do. Senator Sanders, you've consistently refused to say exactly how much your Medicare for All plan is going to cost. Don't voters deserve to see the price tag before you send them a bill that could cost tens of trillions of dollars?
What I will tell you is Medicare for All, which will guarantee comprehensive health care to every man, woman, and child, will cost substantially less than the status quo.
That's my boy.
Medicare for All will end the absurdity of the United States paying by far the highest prices in the world
Turn up the
for
volume.
prescription drugs and healthcare in general. While we have 87 million uninsured and uninsured and underinsured, and while 30,000 people die each year.
Volume is up.
Under Medicare for All, one of the provisions we have to pay for it is a 4% tax on income, exempting the first $29,000. So the average family in America that today makes $60,000
should be better now.
$1,200 a year, compared to that family paying $12,000 a year. We save money, comprehensive health care, because we take on the greed and the profiteering and the administrative nightmare that currently exists in our dysfunctional system.
Good now.
Vice President Biden, does Senator Sanders owe voters a price tag on his health care plan?
I think we need to be candid with voters. I think we have to tell them what we're going to do and what it's going to cost. And a 4% tax on income over $24,000 doesn't even come close to paying for between 30 and some estimates as high as $40 trillion over 10 years. That's doubling
yeah. Bernie
the
2020,
entire
baby. Biden,
federal budget per year. There's a way to do
this
that.
dude's lying
The way to
straight through
do
his
that
teeth.
is to take Obamacare, reinstate, rebuild it, provide a public option, allow Medicare for those folks who want it.
Public option
and in
Obamacare
fact,
is not
make
enough.
sure that
It's
we,
just
in the
downright not
process,
enough.
reduce the cost of drug
Yes, better
prices,
things.
reduce the
Good.
cost of
Thank you.
being able to buy into the, subsidize it further.
Thank you.
And make it everybody available to everyone.
Thanks,
Here's the
Jay Free and
deal.
Jesse.
That costs a lot of money. That costs
Welcome to the stream,
$740
by the way.
billion over 10 years. I lay out how I pay for that.
Senator Sanders?
Well, first of all, what Joe forgets to say is when you leave the current system as it is, what you are talking about are workers paying, on average, 20% of their incomes for health care. That is insane. You got 500,000 people going
It's downright
bankrupt
stupid.
because they cannot pay their medical bills. We're spending twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other country. Look, We've talked about health care for all in this country for over 100 years. Now is the time to take on the greed and corruption of the healthcare industry, of the drug
Look at
companies,
Biden. It looks like he's
and
gonna cry.
finally provide health care to
Oh
all
my God.
through a
Thanks
Medicare
for
for
the stream,
all
Daddy. You are
single-payer
absolutely
program.
welcome,
It won't be
David
easy,
McNulty.
but that is what we have to do.
Absolutely welcome.
You can do it
Vice
without
President
that.
Biden.
You can do without Medicare for all. You can get the same
Abby.
place.
You can do without it.
Senator Klobuchar,
You
yours.
can do without
Yeah,
it.
Senator Sanders and I have worked together on pharmaceuticals for a long, long time, and we agree on this. But what I don't agree with is that his position on health care. This debate isn't
just
real.
me, or
I
does
was
her
in
face
Vegas
look
the
like-
other day, and someone said, don't put your chips on a number on the wheel that isn't
Like,
even
not
on the
symmetrical.
wheel. That's the problem. Over 2/3 of the Democrats in the U.S. Senate are not on the bill that you and Senator Warren are on. You have numerous governors that are Democratic
you
that
are
don't
Bernie's head
support
right now.
this.
Preach it,
You have
meatball.
numerous House
Fuck
members
yeah,
that
boy.
put Nancy Pelosi
Bernie's
in
my
as Speaker.
guy, dude.
The answer is a
Joe's
nonprofit public
bedtime.
option. The answer
Dude,
is the
he's-
real debate we
he's
should be
too
having
old to
is
run.
how
Like,
do we make it easier
Bernie,
for
he's like an
people
old guy,
to
but he's
get
got, like, a
coverage
young
for
heart, you know?
addiction and mental
Biden,
health. I have a
he
plan
looks like
for
he's gonna
that.
cry every
And
time
then
you say something to
finally,
him.
what should we do about
He's
long-term
senile as
care? The
fuck.
elephant that doesn't even fit
Also,
in this
notice
room.
how little,
We need
like,
to make
give a
it
shit about
easier for
Klobuchar.
people to
I'm
get
just
long-term
talking to
care
her.
insurance. We need to
Like-
make it easier for them to pay for their premiums.
It's just the
My own
same-
dad, I
same
know
crap.
when his long-term care insurance ends. And then we have some savings for him. He's in assisted living. He got married 3 times, whole nother story, so there isn't much there.
Notice how Klobuchar,
But
like,
then we
talks?
go
It's
to
always like-
Medicaid, and I've already
Thank
talked
you.
to Catholic
Policy,
Elder Care.
anecdotal
They're
story,
willing to take him in.
policy.
Our story
That's
is
it.
better than so many other families. We have to make it easier for long-term care. It's
Thank
not
you.
just
Thank
for
you, Senator
seniors.
Klobuchar.
It's also for the sandwich
Thank
generation.
you, Senator
People
Klobuchar.
trying to help their parents.
Senator Warren.
So we need to start with what's happening in America. People are suffering. I'll just pick one. 36 million people last year went to the doctor, got a prescription.
Bernie's the only
This is
Senate
what they
person
needed to
running right
get
now.
well,
Everyone else is
and
there
they
for
couldn't
benefit.
afford to
Help-
have the
yeah.
prescription filled.
Fucking yeah,
They
dude.
looked at it and said it's either
Nobody
groceries
here-
or this prescription.
nobody here is
My
here for
approach
the
to this
country.
is we've
No one
got
here
to
is
get
for
as
the
much
United
help
States
to
of
as many
America,
people
except
as
for Bernie
quickly
Sanders.
as possible.
He's been doing that shit
I've worked out a
for
plan
all
where we can
70
do that
of his-
without
of the
raising
years of his
taxes
life.
on middle-class
He
families
is
by
the
one
absolute,
thin
like,
dime.
head,
What I can do
the
are the things I
figurehead
can
of the
do
progressive
as
movement
president
of
on the
America.
first day.
Every one of these
we can cut
candidates,
the cost of
they all
prescription drugs.
wish they
I'll
were
use
him.
the power that's already given to the
But
president
they're all just so
to reduce the
milquetoast.
cost of
They're so
insulin
soft.
and EpiPens
They don't
and
give a shit
HIV
about people.
AIDS drugs. Let's get some relief to those families.
That's ridiculous.
And I will defend the Affordable Care Act. I've got a plan to expand health care, but let's keep in mind, when we come to a general election, we Democrats may argue among each other about the best way to do health care, but we're going to be up against a Republican incumbent who has cut health care for millions of people and is still trying to do that. I'll take our side of the argument any day.
Thank
We're
you.
going to
Thank
beat
you,
him
Senator
on
Warren.
this.
Vice President Biden.
She does make a good point.
The proposal I lay out does, in fact, limit drug cost. It sets up, it allows
Ultimately, we
all
are gonna have to run
the
against,
drug companies.
Republicans, which
Excuse me. It allows you
they're gonna
to
do everything
Medicare
possible
to
to make life
negotiate
hell
with drug
for us
companies
and
for
hell
the
for
price. It
America,
sets
at
a
least in terms of
system
healthcare.
whereby you cannot
They want it to
raise
be
the
private.
price
They want
of
you
a
to
drug
pay out
beyond
your
the cost
ass
of medical
because they
inflation.
work in the
And
interest of
by the way,
healthcare
there's mental
companies.
health parity that I call for in the Obamacare expanded with the Biden option.
100, 100, 100.
Mr. Steyer.
It's fucking true.
We've had this conversation
this guy
on
here?
this
You
stage
know who he looks
so
like?
many times. Everybody on this stage believes that affordable health care is a right for every single American. Everybody on this stage knows that Americans are paying twice as much for health care as any other
looks like
advanced
the
country
fucking
in the world, and
CEO
it makes no sense, and the government has to
from
step in. I do happen to agree with
Deus
Vice
Ex
President
Human
Biden
Revolution.
that we should move and develop the Affordable
Right?
Care Act with a public
Except maybe,
option.
like, without, like,
but
the
the real
gray fox
question is
and
this.
the-
This
like, the
is
gray
not a
foxy
new
hair
problem.
and the
Why
arm.
do we keep having this conversation?
He's got like
we
the
have a
pointy,
broken government.
soulless eyes.
It
like
has
a
been
pointy
bought
chin,
by
soulless
corporations
eyes.
that include the drug companies, the insurance
rotting
companies,
teeth.
and the private hospitals. That's what I'm talking about. How do we get back government of, by, and for the people? How do we actually
Thank
break
you.
the corporate stranglehold on our
Thank you.
government so that we
Thank
can
you,
get
Mr.
any
Steyer.
of these things passed?
Thank you, Mr. Steyer. Senator Sanders, your campaign proposals would double federal spending over the next
It's the
decade.
aesthetic
an
of progressivism.
unprecedented level of spending not seen since World
they
War II.
wanna seem progressive,
How would you
but they're
keep your
not.
plans from bankrupting the country?
Our plan wouldn't bankrupt the country, and in fact, it would much improve the well-being of working-class families and the middle class. Let us be clear what Medicare
Bernie is
for all
kinda
does.
old, but
It
he's-
ends all premiums.
he's doing the
It ends
best.
all co-payments.
Like-
It ends the absurdity of deductibles. It ends out-of-pocket
Just listen to what he's
expenses.
saying.
It takes on the pharmaceutical industry, which in some cases charges us 10
Yeah,
times
Bernard is
more
good.
for same prescription drugs sold
Saint
abroad
Bernard.
as sold here.
No, that's too much.
What we will do through a Medicare for All single-payer program is substantially lower the cost of health care for employers and workers because we end the $100 billion a year that the healthcare
If the DNC
industry
would've
makes
done it right
and
last
the
time, it was
$500 billion a
ticket,
year
I think
we
Bernie-
spend in the administrative nightmare of dealing with thousands of separate insurance plans.
I mean, I think that could
Healthcare
work.
is a human right. Every other
I think it
major
could work.
country on earth is guaranteeing health care
Who
for
does Warren
all.
look like?
The
Oh,
time
God,
is
I
long
don't know.
overdue for us to do the same.
Senator Klobuchar.
Again, I think it is
can't-
much better to build on the Affordable Care Act, and if you want to be practical and progressive
like a
at the same
Hillary
time
Clinton
and have a
that's,
plan and not a pipe dream, you have to
like,
show how
melted
you're
a
going to
little.
pay for it. And I would also note practically that the
You know,
Affordable
like, she's
Care
got,
Act
like,
right
a
now is
longer
10 points
face,
more
longer
popular
hair.
than the
It's
President
like if
of the
someone took
United
an image
States.
of Hillary Clinton and
So
dragged
I
it over.
think the answer is to build on it. And yes, I think you should show how you're going to pay for things, Bernie. I do. This
Are you able
president
to
is
stream this? The
treating
official
people out
CNN
there
Live
like
just kicked
poker
everybody.
chips in one of his
I'm just on their
bankrupt
website,
casinos,
dude.
the way he is adding
I don't
to our
know.
debt. I am the one person
know.
up here who has on her website, in her plan, a plan to actually start taking on the deficit by taking part of that money from that corporate
Thanks for
tax
streaming.
cut
You are
that they
absolutely
put in
welcome,
there
Michael.
and putting it in a fund to pay
Thank
back the
you.
deficit.
Thank
And
you.
I have
I like
shown
Bernie,
how
but
I'm
his
going to
Bernie's
pay
gotta
for
go.
every single plan. Capital gains
Thank you,
tax
Senator
going to the
Klobuchar.
personal
Dude.
level, getting rid
There
of the
are no
oil
Bernie
giveaways,
bros.
Let's
doing
move
something
on.
about
Bernie
the hedge
Sanders
fund
is the most
loophole.
diverse
You
coalition
can
of
go
Senator
through
supporters
it
Klobuchar, your
and the
and
time
get
is
the
largest
up.
money to
coalition
pay
of
for
supporters
things.
out there.
Question. Mayor
completely.
Buttigieg, you're selling your plan as
And the whole, like,
Medicare
purity
for all
test
who want
of,
it. Yet your
like,
plan would automatically
like, frat
enroll
bros
uninsured
can't fucking
Americans
support Bernie
into a
Sanders.
public
No, no, no.
option, even if they don't want it, and force them to pay
Enough of
for it.
that.
How is that truth in advertising?
Well, it's making sure
what's
that
the
there
point
is
of that?
no such thing as an
Oh,
uninsured
here's the mole
American.
man.
Look, the individual mandate was an important part of the ACA because the system doesn't work if there are free riders. What I'm offering is a choice. You don't have
vote
to
for any of
be
them.
in my plan if
I mean,
there's
it's
another
better than
plan
Trump.
that
I'm
you
not
would
gonna
rather
lie,
keep.
but
And there's
Sanders,
no need to
that's
kick
my dude.
Americans off the plans that they want in order to deliver health care for
All
all.
working class
And my
support?
plan
Fuck
is
yeah.
paid for. Look,
Absolutely.
Our party should no
Abso-fucking-lutely.
longer hesitate to talk about
We
the
must vote in
issue
huge
of
numbers
the
to outright
debt
Trump's
and the
cheating.
deficit. Now, we've got a dramatically better track
I mean,
record on it than
it's not really
Republicans
cheating,
do.
it's
In
just
my
how the
lifetime, it's
Electoral
almost
College works.
invariably Republican presidents who have added to the deficit. $1 trillion under this president. And it's why everything I've put forward, from Medicare for all who want it, to the historic investments we're going to make in infrastructure, to dealing with climate change, is fully paid for. When it comes to health care, you can do it in 2 moves. Of course, my plan costs $1.5 trillion over a decade. No small sum, but not the 20, 30, 40 that we're hearing about from the others. All I got to do is 2 things. Both of them are
Feel the
common
burn?
sense.
Hell yeah.
Allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices
I find the
and
Brits to be
roll
very
back the
unconscious
Trump
when it comes to women and
corporate
women's
tax
issues.
cuts that went to corporations and the wealthy that didn't even need it.
Senator Warren.
So I started this by
Maybe the
talking about
liberals.
36 million Americans, including Americans
That
with
makes
insurance, who
sense.
just can't even
But
afford to have a prescription filled.
Bernie
We all talk
Sanders
about
himself
plans, healthcare
is
plans that
very
we
vocal
have,
on
and
these
these plans are
issues.
paid for.
Very
The
absolutely
problem
vocal.
is that plans like the mayor's and like the
he
vice
just-
presidents is
he's
that
been
they are an
consistently
improvement.
right.
They are an improvement over
supported
where we are
abortion
right
before
now.
Roe v. Wade.
But they're a small improvement. And that's why it is that they cost so much less. Because by themselves, they're not going to be enough to cover prescriptions for 36
Bernie's
million
mobilizing
people who can't
voters, the other
afford to
guys are
get them
fighting over an
filled.
aging electorate.
What we
Yeah,
need to
pretty
do
much.
is
Like,
make the
I've
commitment
heard America described as
that
a
we know where the
gerontocracy,
money
where
comes
it's,
from. We can ask those at the
like,
very top,
basically
the
ruled
top
by old people,
1%
'cause
to
that's
pay a
who
little more.
most of the
Those
country
giant
is. Most of the country
corporations
is
like
old people.
Chevron and Amazon
they're
who paid
being
nothing
quickly
in
replaced,
taxes,
but
we can have them pay.
the
And we
aging
can go
electorate
after the corporate
has a
tax
huge
cheats.
say
And when
in
we
what
do that,
America does.
we have enough money to provide health care for all our
that's what
people.
a lot of
yes,
these
we
moderates
build
are fighting
on the
for is
Affordable
that,
Care
you
Act,
know,
but where we
more
end up
moderate,
is we offer health care to all of our
sort
people,
of
and we can offer it at no
not really
cost
that
or low
involved
cost to
centrist
all of
electorate.
them.
Mayor Buttigieg.
It's just not true that the plan I'm proposing is small. We got to move past a Washington mentality that suggests
Oh,
that the
come
bigness of plans only consists of how many trillions of dollars they put through the Treasury. that the boldness of a plan
Your
only
plan-
consists
oh
of how many Americans it can alienate. This would be a game
PD,
changer.
PD.
This would be the biggest thing
Your
we've done to
entire
American
plan
healthcare in a half
is just a
century.
reduced
Let's measure
version
the
of
effect of
Medicare
our
for All.
plans
It's
based
so
on
bad.
what they would do in our everyday lives.
Like, we can do
and
better.
yes, we're
We
taking
can't.
on
We spend
costs
too much.
on prescription drugs. We'll have an out-of-pocket cap, even if you don't get the subsidies that would make it free.
Need to
a
mobilize people to vote?
$250
Yeah,
monthly cap.
absolutely.
And here's why it's got to be monthly. You ever been in that situation or known somebody who finds that they've got to defer a procedure or delay filling a
Plus, Bernie
prescription
is
to try to
low-key
have it
thick.
happen in the right month? Because of when your out-of-pocket cap hits, it makes no sense medically.
Hey,
because
thanks for the
most of us
donation.
don't
I
experience
don't
the
see how much
economy
it is right now 'cause
on
I'm
an
not,
annual basis.
here.
Our bills don't come
That
in
probably went
every
through
year; they
Streamlabs,
come in
but
every
thank
month.
you for the donation.
Same with
I
our
appreciate
paychecks,
it.
bi-weekly or
you.
monthly. That's why we set this
I'm not
up in a way to
obsessed at all.
solve
They
the
themselves
problem
made an issue.
without running up
Thank you, Mayor
20, 30,
Buttigieg.
40 trillion dollar
Senator
bills.
Warren, your response?
Look,
Okay, boomer.
the numbers that the mayor's offering just don't add up. The average
some
family in
slaughter in the
America
chat.
last year paid $12,000 in some combination of deductibles and co-pays and uncovered expenses and fees. You can't
Purple
cover
Mountain,
that with the
it'll
kind
be-
of money that the
it'll be
mayor
okay.
is talking about. The way we have to
Just know that we
approach
can
this
do
is
better.
we've got to build this, and we've got to build the alliances
blue,
to make this
yes,
happen.
but
I
vote
can
for
bring
the
down the
best candidate
cost
out
of
there.
prescription drugs
Like,
like
why settle
insulin
for a
and take
shine
hundreds
turd
of
when you have a
millions of
chocolate cake?
dollars out of the
Right?
system immediately in cost. We can get help to families, but we have to be willing to
Give me
work
that
together.
circumcised
We
Bernie
can
PP.
let people experience what
Thanks,
healthcare is
Dorian.
like. When
Hey,
it's
another
you
donation.
and your doctor, your mental health professional,
Hello.
your
I
nurse
can't see the
practitioner
donations yet
with
right
no
now.
insurance company standing in the middle. When
Thank you,
people
Senator
try it
Warren.
and
Warren.
use
Thank you.
it,
Senator Klobuchar.
then
Senator Warren, you acknowledged that Medicare for All, that you couldn't get there right away. You got on the bill that said on page 8, which is why I didn't get on it, that you would kick 149 million Americans off their current health insurance. Then, a few months ago, you said, no, you're going to wait a while to get there. And I think that was some acknowledgement that maybe what we're talking about is true. And I don't buy that it's not enough. It is a big, big step to say to people making
that's just so
$100,000 a
typical
year
of
that your premiums will
She
be
pretty much
cut in
exists
half, which is what the nonprofit
to make
public
Medicare for
option
all
will
look
do.
bad.
And if you
Honestly.
talk Mayor Buttigieg
When she
about
says shit like that,
Medicare
it just gives
and
ammo to the centrists.
having negotiation, I actually have led that bill for years.
Vote
I have
purple, make
34
America grape again.
co-sponsors. As president, I can get it done. That would allow
Okay.
Medicare to finally negotiate and lift the ban
you
that
sure
Big
something
Pharma
good might
got
be on
into
TV
law
that night?
that says they can't negotiate for
Burn.
better prices for our
Yes.
seniors. I
Senator-
would get it
Absolutely
done.
burn.
Senator Sanders, coming to you now. CNN reached out to Iowa Democratic voters for their most pressing questions. Edward from here in Des Moines writes, Des Moines is an insurance town. What happens to all the insurance industry, the health insurance industry here if there is Medicare for all? What happens
Rip it
to all
out.
the jobs and the
Right off the-
livelihoods
right
of
off
the
the
people
map.
that live in insurance towns like Des Moines?
Fuck insurance.
We build into our Medicare for All program a transition fund of many, many
mean,
billions of dollars that
yeah,
will
of course we're gonna
provide for
transition
up
into
to
it, but
5 years
Insurance
income
in America
and
is
health
such a
care
scam.
and job training for those
Such
people.
a fucking scam.
But here is the issue.
They
Tom
just prey
Stein
on
made the
people
point a moment
who
ago.
are too poor to pay their
We are now
bills,
spending
and they
twice
crank the
as
bills
much
up
per
as much as they
person on
can, so they
healthcare
make you
as do
pay
the people
for
of any other
insurance.
country. That is insane. In some
See?
cases, 10 times more
we're paying
for
10 times
prescription
more.
drugs. Why is that? Why is that? And the answer is
Particularly
the
prescriptions.
greed
That shit's
and corruption
awful.
of the drug companies and the insurance companies. And if we want to do what every
jobs
other
and actual
major
healthcare.
country
I
on
agree.
earth does, and guarantee people
If we just straight up
health
funded
care
the
is a human
hospitals
right,
instead of paying
not
for
a
all this
privilege.
middleman and bloat,
You know what we,
we
have
would
to
have
do?
so much-
We are
such a
finally
better
going to
healthcare
have to
system.
stand up to
Such-
the healthcare industry
respond to this?
and end hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and profiteering.
Mr. Steyer?
Exactly.
I just want
All
to
insurance is
emphasize
just
what
waste
Senator
and
Sanders
profiteering.
said.
It's
This
just
is not
bloat.
a complicated problem. Between what Senator Warren and Senator Sanders said, it's clear. There are two problems. We're spending way too much because corporations own the system.
Is Steyer backing
And we're
Bernie?
not negotiating against those corporations. And we've given tax cuts to the richest Americans and the
Greed,
biggest corporations for
abso-fucking-lutely.
decades. That's
Absolutely.
all this is. We have corporations who are having their way with the American people, and people are suffering. Senator Warren is right. This is cruelty for money. In order to
Yeah,
break this,
it is.
we're going to have to break the corporate stranglehold and solve both the tax and the negotiating problem. That's why I'm for term limits. We need to redo Washington, D.C.
Thank
and
you.
actually
Thank
take
you,
back
Mr.
the
Steyer.
government from the corporations
Thank
who
you,
bought
Mr.
it.
Steyer. Vice President Biden?
I would argue that
He makes a
the
solid point
biggest
there.
breakthrough in recent time was
Slightly
us
solid.
being able to do in our administration
here
what
now.
five
Welcome to the
Democratic
streamline.
presidents couldn't get done, and that is pass Obamacare. It was a big deal.
Oh my
Secondly, I would argue that the way you control drug prices
Nobody
is you
cares
limit
that you
what they
passed
can
Obamacare,
charge
Biden.
for those prices.
Obamacare
You don't have
was
to pay
gutted
the
by the
price, limit what they can
Republicans.
charge.
It
If
was
in
supposed
fact
to be
they
a public
charge
option
more
plan
than
like
we
what
set the price
you're
for,
saying you want now.
they can in fact,
But it got turned into a private
people
option
can
plan.
import from abroad,
Into a
assuming
marketplace
that
of
it
healthcare.
is,
It's
it is,
bullshit.
it is safe.
It's a total
We, in
scam.
fact, it's only yellow, Wolf, okay?
It's not
And
an
we can in
accomplishment. It's been
fact do all of this
completely
and still
cut in
provide
half by the
people
Republicans.
the option to
Not
stay, the
even
roughly
close.
150 to 160 million Americans who like
Mike's
the
done.
negotiated plan they have with their
Bullshit it
employers.
is.
If they don't like it or the employer gets rid of it, they can buy into a
Hello?
Medicare plan
Hello?
in the Biden plan.
Let's talk a little bit more about prescription drugs right now.
Joe Biden, more like
Prescription
Joe
drug
Lana.
prices in 2018, Americans spent
Check my
$335
mic.
billion
Yeah, we're good. We're
on
good.
prescription drugs alone. That's about $60 billion more than they paid a decade ago. Senator Warren,
If you go to the
you've
chemicals
called for
of
the
the food we
creation
responsibly
of a
and kept somewhat fit, the
government-run
public gets
drug
75% medical
manufacturer
issues.
that would step in if there is a drug shortage
that's true.
or a price spike. Why does it make
But we
sense
can't
for
really
the government
fix-
to manufacture drugs,
We can't really fix
especially
that
when
until we make our
public
healthcare
trust in
better.
government is near historic lows?
So let's do this both ways. What I also have said is I'm just going to use the power that is available, and I will do what a president can do all by herself on the very first day, and that is lower the prices of certain prescription drugs. I will lower the price of insulin. We already have the illegal authority with the president to do that. President just hasn't picked up and used it. I will lower the price of EpiPens, of HIV, AIDS drugs.
2020, that is
That's
all?
going to bring a lot
Fuck
of
yeah.
relief to a lot of
Bernie's my
families
guy.
immediately.
Bernie is the
You know, there are a
guy.
whole lot of drugs, about 90% of drugs, that
Elizabeth
are not
makes a
under
few good
patent.
points here and
They're
there, but she's
generic
just
drugs. But the drug
such a
industry has
flim-flammer.
figured out how to
She's an
manipulate this
ex-Republican.
industry to keep jerking the prices up and up and up. So my
Food
view
access
is,
can't fix
let's
a
give them
broken
a
arm.
little
Exactly.
competition. The
And
government lets
if a broken arm
contracts
puts you in
for all
poverty, how
kinds
are you
of
gonna get
things.
food that's
They
good?
let contracts to build
Right?
buildings. They let contracts to build military weapons. Let's let the contracts out, put the contracts out, so that we can put more generic drugs out there and drive down those prices. This is a way to make markets work. Not to try to move away from the market. You don't have to even use price controls. The whole idea behind it is get some
You do have to use
competition
price
out there
controls. I'm
so
sorry,
the price
that's-
of these drugs that are no longer under patent
No,
drops
you
where
can't
it
just
should.
make it
Senator
lower
Klobuchar,
by
do
making
you
a bunch of
believe the
generic
government
drugs.
should be manufacturing
that's
drugs?
too wishful.
I am open to looking at it, but I would
That's
try
not-
these
that's
things
just not how the
first.
market works.
Number one, I mentioned the Medicare negotiation. Number two, I have a plan, 137
Lower
things
the
I
prices of
found
certain RX
that
drugs,
a
which
president can
ones?
do
Yeah,
herself in the
exactly.
first
You're gonna lower
100 days
insulin?
without Congress that are legal. And one of
Come on.
those things is that you
Warren lost
can
my
start
support tonight.
bringing in
Yeah.
less expensive drugs
never
from
had
other
my
countries.
support.
Bernie and I had an amendment on this. We got 14 Republican votes on it. It was at
dropped in the
midnight.
polls
They
as
might
soon as
have
she
not
switched
known
her
what they were
position,
voting
Medicare
for,
for all- yeah.
but we got that.
That's what happens, because
I now
Medicare for
have
all is
an actual
popular
bill with
as
Senator
fuck.
Grassley that
It's
does that.
needed
And I
at
have
this
a bill
point.
to get at
We
what
need this.
Elizabeth was talking about,
sense,
which
brother?
is to stop
Thank you.
generics from taking
I
money
try.
from big pharmaceuticals to keep their
paid
products
off
off
that
the
bill, not
market.
paying off the
The
medical
issue
debt from seeing
here
4
is
doctors
that
when I
there
got
are
the
2
mumps.
pharma
None of them
lobbyists
knew what
for
it was.
every member of Congress.
Thank you,
They
Senator.
think they own Washington. They don't own me.
Thank
and
you,
as
Senator.
The
president,
medical
I
system
will
in this
get
country
this
is
done.
We're
so
going
messed
to
up.
turn now to child
It's so
care, a
goddamn
huge
rigged.
expense for many new families
It's
and a
just be
problem
rich
that's
or die,
especially acute in
essentially.
rural Iowa. We have another question from an Iowa Democratic voter. Mayor Buttigieg, this is for you. Tiffany from Clive writes,
Yeah,
as
not
a
to mention
young
that
mom, I
Warren
had to
voted
quit a
for
job
Trump's
I loved
military
because
increases.
childcare
Like, what
costs
the-
were taking up 2/3 of
Why?
my income.
Why would you do anything
Many
for that man?
families don't have the option of quitting a job because that little
ridiculous.
bit of income is needed. That leads to families using whatever care they can find, and sometimes the results are deadly, as we've seen in Iowa over the last few years. How will you prioritize accessing quality, affordable childcare in your first 100 days in office?
It makes no sense for childcare to cost 2/3 of somebody's income. We've got to drive
makes
it
no
to
sense for any
7%
healthcare or any
below,
care of any
and
kind to
0
cost
for those
any
families
third of your
who are
income. It
living
should
in
be
poverty.
fucking free.
But this is happening to folks
It should
at
be
every
paid for by the
level
government,
of the income
which should be
spectrum.
paid for by our taxes.
Meet professionals who
Whether
sometimes
it's
say that
childcare,
they're
healthcare,
working
senior
in
care,
order to be able to
fucking
afford
hospice care.
childcare in order to be able to be working.
Education.
It makes no sense, and it must
Anything.
change, and we shouldn't be afraid to put
There's not
federal
even a
dollars
contest to that.
into making that
It
a
should
reality.
be.
Subsidizing childcare
Subscribe.
and making sure
Thank you.
that we are building up a
mostly
workforce of
post,
people who are
shit posts. This is
paid
more of
at
my,
a decent level to offer
political
early
breakout
childhood
content.
education,
I wanna do more
as well as
politics stuff.
childcare writ large. We can do that, and until we do, this
Warren
will be
also
one of the
voted for Ben
biggest
Carson
drivers
being head
of
of
the
Department
gender
of
pay
Housing. Like,
gap.
what the fuck?
Because when somebody
Why?
like the voter
He's
asking the
such a
question
fucking-
has to step out of
He
the
doesn't
workforce
do anything.
because
He's just
of that
a sleepy
reason.
neurosurgeon.
She is at a disadvantage when she comes back in, and that can affect her
And he's a
pay for the
Republican.
rest of her
How is
career.
that going to help housing?
Senator Warren, your education plan includes tuition-free public college for all.
Am I ranting too much?
But you
Sorry.
impose an income limit for free childcare.
I'll
Why
quiet
do your
down a little.
plans cover everyone for public college, but not childcare and early learning?
No, actually, my plan is universal childcare for everyone. It just has some people adding a small payment. But understand this about the plan. I've been there. You know, I remember when I was a young mom, I had 2 little kids, and I had my first real university teaching job. It was hard work. I was excited,
Nothing should
but
be
it was
free, but it should be
childcare
forced to
that
pay for
nearly
people's
brought me
childcare
down.
and
We
have
went through
children
one
because we live in a
childcare after
society.
another, and it just
pay for
didn't
things with
work.
taxes.
If I hadn't been
Sorry.
saved by my Aunt B,
If you don't like the
I was
roads,
ready
don't
to
drive
quit
on them.
my job. And I think about how many women of my generation just got knocked off the track and never got back on. How many of my daughter's generation
Same
get
thing.
knocked off the track and don't get back on? How many mamas and daddies today are getting knocked off the track and never get back on? I have a 2-cent wealth tax so that we can cover child care for all of our children and provide universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in America, and stop exploiting the people who do this valuable work. Largely black and brown women, we can raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher in America.
Hey, thanks, Ian.
That's an investment in our babies. That's an investment in their mamas and their daddies, and it's an investment in our teachers and in our economy.
Senator Sanders, will your universal
need to
child
do.
care program be free for everyone regardless of income?
Yeah. Let me pick up on this child care thing. Every psychologist in the world knows 0 through 4 are the most important years of human life, intellectually and emotionally. And yet our current child care system is an embarrassment. It is unaffordable. Child care workers are making wages lower than McDonald's workers. We need to fundamentally change priorities in America. We should not be one of the few countries that does not have universal, high-quality, affordable child care. We should not be one of the only major countries not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. We should not be spending more than the 10 next countries on the military, hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies for the fossil fuel industry, tax breaks for billionaires, and then tell the moms and dads in this country
Thank
we
you,
cannot have
Senator.
high-quality,
Vice President
affordable
Biden, I'm coming to
childcare.
you now.
That is wrong.
Vice President Biden, infant care
fucking
is
true.
more expensive than
true.
in-state public college tuition in more than half the country. Do you
Do whatever
support
to lower the
free
price, but it
universal
shouldn't be forced to pay
infant
for
care?
someone who,
It should
had
be
child-
free universal
child care,
infant care, but here's the deal.
How
You
selfish
know,
can
I
you
was
be?
a single parent,
The world
too.
doesn't
When my
revolve
wife
around,
and daughter were killed,
you or what you pay
my
for.
2 boys I
But
had to
every time
raise.
you
I
pay
was a
for
senator,
food,
a young senator. I just hadn't been
there's
sworn in yet.
like a couple cents of
And
that
I
that
was
goes
making
to the
$42,000 a
military
year.
and
I commuted
police
every
and
single
just
solitary
mostly
day
the military.
to Wilmington, Delaware,
So why
over
not make
500
that-
miles a day.
Like, this is a pie chart, right?
250 miles a
Military is
day,
like half.
because I could not afford,
like,
but for
take
my
a little
family,
bit for-
childcare. It was
just a
beyond
little
my
bit of
reach
that
to be able
pie
to do it. And that's why there's several things we
for,
do. When I
don't know,
triple the amount of
things we
money for
need.
Title I schools, every child,
Child
3,
care,
4, and
healthcare,
5 years
stuff
old,
like that.
will in fact have full schooling. They'll go to
Bernie's
school
smashing these
and
full-
after-school
absolutely.
programs, which will release some of the burden. Secondly, I think we should have an $8,000 tax credit, which would put 7 million women back to work. They could afford to go to work and still care for their children as an $8,000 tax credit. I also
Why
believe
a
that we
tax
should, in
credit? Why not
fact,
just give
for
them
people
paid
who, in fact,
maternal
are
leave?
not able to afford
Or,
any of
I
infant
don't know,
care,
here's a
to be
radical
able to
thought.
get that care. But Bernie's
Mandated
right, we have to
vacations,
raise the
at least a
salaries
week
of the
of-
people who are doing the
a
care.
week per year,
And I provide for that
any
as well.
full-time
My
employee,
time is up, I
any
know, but
part-time
I'm
employee,
not going to go over like
1
everybody.
week.
Mayor
off.
Buttigieg. Mayor Buttigieg, higher education is another huge
They're
expense
laughing
for
at him.
families. You oppose free public college for all because you don't want to make it,
Raise
quote,
our minimum
free
wage?
for the kids
Absolutely.
of millionaires. But lots of public services are available to the kids of
we
rich
get paid
people,
too
like
little.
libraries and public schools. Why do
It's
you draw the
untenable.
line at public colleges and universities?
Well, it's simple. We expect and hope for everyone to get through 12th grade. It's not the same for college. Now, again, I don't want cost ever to be a barrier to somebody seeking to attend college. And under my plan, it won't be. Matter of fact, for the first 80% of Americans by income, it is free at public colleges. But if
Boring
you're
as
in
hell,
that
Trump
top
2020, CNN is a
income
joke.
bracket,
Please ask
don't
real
get me wrong, I
questions.
still wish you well. I hope you succeed when you go to college.
Who
I
asked
just
for
need
you
you
to
to
be
go
here?
ahead and pay
No, really,
that
who-
tuition.
who
because we
asked?
could be using those dollars for something else.
And what has Donald
there is
Trump
a
done
very
that's good?
real choice
Seriously,
about
name
what we do with
4
every
things. Name
single
one thing.
taxpayer
One
dollar that
thing.
we raise.
What
And we
has
need
Donald
to be
Trump
using that
achieved?
to
What do
support
you like that
everybody,
he's
whether
done
you go to college
that
or
you think
not.
is good for the
Making
whole
sure
of
that
America?
Americans can thrive, investing in
I
infrastructure,
challenge you,
and
Mason
something that
JP.
hasn't come up very much tonight, but deserves a lot of attention: poverty. You know, the Poor People's
can't
Campaign
pay
is
for everything,
marching
it's
on Iowa
impossible.
right now,
Actually,
calling on us to talk about this issue.
we can pay
more.
for public
They
services.
are driven by their faith. I think because
Shit,
even
it's
though
in the name.
politics we're
Public
supposed
services.
to talk middle class, they know there's no
Every country in the
scripture that
world can
says,
do
as
it.
you've done unto the middle class,
Why
so
can't
you've done
we?
unto me. We got to be making sure that we target our tax dollars where they will make the biggest difference. And I don't think subsidizing the children of millionaires and billionaires to pay absolutely zero in tuition at public colleges is the best use of those scarce
Senator
taxpayer
Warren.
dollars.
So look,
That's
the
such
way
a
I think we
shitty
need to do
argument.
this is we need a wealth tax in America.
It should
we
be
need to
everyone
ask
gets
people
free
with fortunes
college.
above $50
I
million
don't care
to
if
pay
they're
more.
the son of a
and that
billionaire. It
means
doesn't
that
matter.
the lowliest
It should be
millionaire
across the
that I
board.
would tax under this wealth
That is
tax
the law.
would be paying about $19 million in the first year in taxes. If he wants to send his kid to public university, then I'm okay with that.
I don't like
Because
Donald
what
Trump
we
and he's
really
improved
need
our
to
economy.
talk about is
How?
the bigger
The stock
economic
market?
picture here. We need to be willing to put a wealth tax in place,
market,
to
jobs,
ask those
military,
giant
lowest unemployment
corporations that are
minorities.
not paying to pay.
The stock
Because
market isn't
that's how we build an economy, and for those
It
who want
isn't
to talk about
indicative
it,
of how people
bring down the
in
national
the
debt.
economy are working.
You do
It's
universal
only
child
indicative-
care, and you got a lot of
indicative
mamas who
of
can
how
go to work.
corporations
A
are
lot of
trading.
mamas who can finish their education.
much money they're
we
making,
make
how
that
much their value's
investment
going up.
in universal college. We've got a
Thank
lot of
you,
people
Senator.
who finish
Senator
an
Klobuchar.
People are
education.
working more
you know,
jobs
I
than ever
appreciate-
before
I
because
appreciate
people
your
have to work
thoughts,
more
Elizabeth,
jobs
but
to
I want
get-
to step
to
back.
make
I
rent.
actually think
The military
that some
is
of
on
our
a runaway
colleagues who want free
budget.
college for all aren't actually thinking big enough.
And lowest
I think
unemployment,
what we
same
have to
reason
look
as the
at is
jobs
how
fair.
we connect our education system with our economy. Where are our job openings and what do we need?
Their
We are
answer is
going to
always
have
tax
over
cuts and
1
unemployment.
million
Yeah, 'cause
openings
it's
for home
it's just
health care
bullshit.
workers that we don't
It's
know how to
fluff.
fill in the next 10 years.
Cut the taxes,
We are
cut
going
the
to have
taxes, cut
open
the taxes. Every time a Republican gets in
100,000
office,
jobs for nursing
America has the lowest
assistants.
taxes in the-
We, as
taxes
my
in the
union
world.
friends know,
And
we're
we
going to
are
have
really
over
showing for it because we have
70,000
no
openings for
public
electricians.
services.
We're not going to have a shortage
It's
of
been
MBAs.
pure
We're going to have
devolution.
a shortage of plumbers. So when we look at that, then we step back. Where should our money go? It should go into K through 12. It should go into free 1- and 2-year degrees, like my dad got, like my sister got.
Thank you,
and
Senator
then we should
Klobuchar.
double the Pell Grants because we're going to need 4-year
Thank you,
degrees.
Senator
So the
Klobuchar.
money
Mr.
goes
Steyer?
where it should
The
go
stock market
instead
doesn't
of
pack
to rich
401ks,
kids
but
going to
think of,
Mr.
college.
like,
Steyer,
minimum
as a
wage
billionaire,
workers.
should your
They don't have
children have been
401ks,
entitled to free public
And
college?
minimum wage workers are most of America.
And let me say this. I was one of the people who talked about a wealth tax almost a year and a half ago. I believe that the income inequality in this country is unbearable, unjust, and unsupportable.
That's coming
And
from a billionaire.
the redistribution of wealth to the richest Americans from everyone else has to end. And I proposed a wealth tax almost a year and a half ago to start to address it and to raise some of the money that we need. But I want to go beyond this and go back to this question about
Who pays for,
education.
you want me to
because
pay for
we're talking a
someone
lot
else's
about
childcare, who
college.
pays for mine?
But in
We
fact,
do.
if you
America
talk about the
does.
poor people's
It's how
campaign,
taxes work.
you have to realize
It's like
that
being
for
a
the
cop and saying,
youngest
"Oh, if I
kids,
gotta pay
they're getting
taxes
an
for
education
other police
that's relative
officers,
to the
who pays my
taxes
salary?"
in their
You do,
neighborhoods.
dummy. Everyone
we
does.
need to redistribute money so every kid has a chance.
Tax money
So we're
does.
not
The
legislating
municipality does.
inequality for the next generation, and so we
Let Joe
actually
talk.
invest in every single kid.
They let her finish your
Specifically
point.
poor
Yeah,
kids, specifically black kids, specifically brown
Because
kids.
CNN
We
likes her.
need to start using the money dramatically more for that.
We'll be back
Burn
with
for
more
it.
from CNN's Democratic presidential debate live from Des Moines, Iowa.
Dems are all
Stay
rats.
right here.
Republicans are all turds. It's America. Welcome to it. All right, break time. Vote in chat. Who wants to see me play a dumb Newgrounds game while we wait? The thing that scares me is the debt clock. The thing that should scare you is student debt. That's a bubble waiting to burst. That's an economic depression in the making. hundreds of millions of people in this well, not hundreds of millions, millions of people in this country are students, right? And once that bubble bursts, it's just fucking gonzo. In some states, the universities are the largest employer. Like, once that collapses, we're in a new depression. At least a recession. Smoke him if you got him. Huh? Not slowly tax them more, they can certainly afford it. Yeah. The rich people can afford more taxing. Cutting on taxes is fucking stupid. It does nothing to help America. You know what cutting, like, the estate tax did? It made it so rich people didn't have to pay money when they, like, had an estate. Or when they passed on their estate in their will or something. It's dumb. It's nothing that me or you will ever have to face. Nothing even close. You can't forego student loan debt. You can't forego student loan debt, so it can't burst. Except it can when you don't pay. If you can't pay for student loan debt, then how are the universities going to make money? It's just going to go to a debt collector, and then you're going to have a bunch of people with ruined credit, and a bunch of people who, you know, were supposed to get paid your money to go to college, who don't get that money. Debt collectors get no money. The university gets no money. Nobody gets any money. The government will have to eat it eventually? Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of how they've been keeping us afloat for now, but eventually it's just going to all fall apart. If there's too many people in the in the field of college loans, then it's all going to fall apart. Decadence is immoral. Yeah, it is. I mean, when the rich only get richer and the poor only get poorer, that's fucking immoral. It's unjust. Completely unjust. No one, the government is entitled to wealth you earned and already taxed on. What? Wealth taxes done in 1951 didn't work. 12 European countries tried it. Only 3 still have it. We need a VAT. I mean, I agree we do kind of need a VAT. That would probably help things a lot. But a wealth tax, we still kind of need one. Like, the wealthy in this country are getting away with so much shit. Like, remember the Panama Papers? Remember the, remember when the Prime Minister of Iceland got canned because he was, like, laundering money overseas? What about all the rich people implied in that? All the rich American CEOs? No one gave a shit because America doesn't do anything about that. We just don't. Quantitative easing to infinity. How could it all fall apart? They garnish you, they take you to court. I mean, yeah, they'll garnish your wages and yeah, they'll try to take you to court, but what if you can't pay those? Are they going to throw you in jail? No, they'll just sue you and you'll have less money. And if you have less money, and if every college student, or not every, but if a bunch of college students who can't pay their loans have less and less and less money because you get sued over and over and over, and your wages get more and more garnished, that's just taking minimum wage workers and cutting that in half. So they have to pay more student loans. It's just setting you up for failure. Move your mic more to the side. How so? Like this? Like that? Is this good? This right here? I appreciate you streaming this and offering your opinions, but your views are what the problem is with this country. How? How is that the problem with this country? The problem with this country is the decadence, the absolute idiocy of the Republican Party. You can't just keep cutting taxes every time you get elected. Eventually you're going to run out of fucking tax to cut. And at that point, the government will have no money, will just be floating on debt, and after that, the U.S. will default.
Welcome back to CNN's Democratic presidential debate. We're live in Des Moines, Iowa. Tomorrow, the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, will send articles of impeachment against President Trump to the United States Senate.
I never said it
launching the third Trump Senate has signaled that it is likely to acquit him. Vice President Biden,
water break.
If you're the nominee, is it going to be harder to run against President Trump if he's been acquitted and able to claim vindication, especially after what he said about your family?
It's irrelevant. There's no choice but for Nancy Pelosi and the House to move. He has, in fact, committed impeachable offenses. Whether the Senate makes that